Hello there. It's been quite some time since I reviewed one of the Bobbsey Twin books. I've been a little bit busy, that is true, but also I just didn't have the inclination to do it. And of course, these book reviews are just for fun, so I don't want them to be a job. I want to do them when I feel like doing them. But either way, I wanted to review number 5 since I did the first 4, and this is actually one of my absolute favorites. It's called The Case of the Close Encounter. And it goes into UFOs and things of that nature, so I really like it. It has a kind of a science fiction aspect, although there's really no science fiction in it. We're gonna, of course, just like before, we're going to get into spoilers, so please be warned about that. But one of the spoilers is obviously, I say obviously because in these books they're not science fiction. There really are no aliens. There's no UFO. It's a scam. But again, this is what I was talking about before, and I wanted to recap this because I haven't made a review in a while. The new Bobbsey Twins series started in 1987 when I was a tween, and it ended in 1992 when I was a teenager. So I was kind of growing out of this kind of series anyway, but the first 17 books are written, I guess you would say, for tweens. They were written with the older twins were the main protagonists. They were 12, so around the age of tweens, and the mysteries involved they involved real crimes. Okay, so again, I'll spoil it now because I'm going to go into it anyway. This book actually involves who is stealing a super secret government helicopter. So we're talking real crimes here, like espionage and things of that nature. The last 12 books in the series, for whatever reason, they kind of toned down all of that. The main protagonists were the younger 6-year-old twins, and the mysteries were kind of in that vein. I mean, like, the mysteries began to go to things like a science fair project was stolen, a secret chocolate chip cookie recipe was stolen, a prize pig goes missing. So the stakes become very much lower. And of course, as I said, I was getting older anyway. I was a teenager, so if anything, I wanted to see things that were in the same vein, or maybe even advancing, not regressing. So the last 12 books, I do have them and I do read them, but they're not as they don't have that place in my heart that the first 17 do, and as well as the Wanderer Bobbsey Twins series that went from 1980 to 1986. Now, again, though, there are some series that I do like that do have low stakes, like the McQuark Organization. That started in 1973 and ended in 1996, and I bought the books all the way to the end, and by 1996 I was well into my 20s. But anyway, going back to number 5, The Case of the Close Encounter. Oh, I should mention too, I bought the rights to some of the photos that were taken of the models who posed for pictures for the artist who drew the illustrations in the books. So the photos aren't in here, but like realistic drawings are in the books. If I can figure out how to do it, I will put some of those in the into the video as I edit it. But anyway, The Case of the Close Encounter involves okay, so it starts off with Nan Bobbsey, the oldest girl. She's 12. She has a babysitting job, babysitting a 5-year-old boy, I think he was, named Artie. And he's kind of, I mean, he's mischievous. He's not a bad kid, but he's just very hyper and very mischievous. And she gets sick, so she asks Bert, her twin, who's also 12, obviously, to do the babysitting. And he's not really into babysitting, but he does it as a personal favor. And Artie kind of runs him ragged. And it's actually funny reading the first chapter with the shenanigans that the little boy gets up to. And again, he's not a mischievous kid. I don't like books where the kids are just brats. He's just very precocious, very hyper, and of course, like I said, Bert is just not used to taking care of children, so he has a little bit of a struggle there. But they already decided to play hide and seek outside, and Bert goes outside to try to find him, and that's when it's the middle of the night, I should mention, it's like early evening, so that's when Bert sees a UFO. What he sees are these, he doesn't actually see the ship, but he sees first he sees one huge bright white light, like a spotlight, and then he sees these multicolored lights going in a circle, kind of what you would think of as a flying saucer, okay? And there's no sound at all, so it's very spooky. And Bert sees it. Artie doesn't see it because he's hiding. I think he's hiding in a pile of leaves or something, so he doesn't see it. And of course, when Bert mentions it, Artie thinks he's just joking around. And even when Artie's parents come back, they know Nan and they respect her, and they know that the Bobbsey solved mystery, so they don't just dismiss what Bert's saying, but they really kind of don't believe it. They think Bert might have just seen something unusual and just kind of made it into a UFO in his mind, basically. So Bert does mention that what he saw. He tells, now remember, this is kind of a small town kind of flavor, and two, this is pre-internet where everyone kind of knows everybody and people were a lot more social. So he tells, I think, a radio program, and they actually air it on the news, or if I'm not mistaken. So from there, the Bobbseys decide to investigate. They go to where they think the flying saucer landed, and Artie goes with them, kind of as a Artie really likes Nan. Nan recovers, and so Nan's a babysitter, so she brings him along. They do find some things, some weird things, like these tracks that look like basically maybe the flying saucer landed or something, because there's kind of burn marks on an open field. So it is kind of spooky. And then there is a woman who says that she's a reporter, and she covers these like strange sightings and things of that nature. And so she interviews Bert. She acts very strange, but Bert just figures she might be just a strange person. On top of that, let's see, as they're coming back from doing their investigation, there's a new restaurant open in town. And so Flossie especially, and the younger boy, Freddie too, they want ice cream sundaes, and so they stop at this restaurant. And there is a guy there. The owner is, he acts a little mysterious especially to the younger twins. And a couple of his friends come, and they start speaking in a different language. And the younger twins are convinced that they're aliens, and it's this alien language. On top of that, the diner was called the Cup and Saucer, but the owner said that Cup and Saucer just doesn't sound cool enough for the contemporary 1980s, so he calls it the Flying Saucer Diner. And so of course they're like, ooh, flying saucers. And he even has a couple of cups that he gives them mugs with their hot chocolate came in, and he also he does give them a couple paper cups that he's still getting rid of that say Cup and Saucer Diner on them. So they're a suspect, at least to the younger twins, because they think that he might be an alien, or he's doing something really strange. He has a flying saucer diner. So they're still investigating things. They also run into a man who has a motor scooter, and he seems to be following them, and they don't know why. Now, later, if I'm not mistaken, it's Bert and Flossie who go back to to that field where they found the tracks. And they hear these like strange ray gun sounds, and then suddenly a tree next to them like bursts into flame. So they think that aliens are actually after them, and Bert's convinced of this too, because it's a pretty. I remember reading it, especially as a little kid. It came out. I should mention it came out in March, I think, April of 1988. So I was not quite a teenager yet. So I wasn't a tiny kid, but still, as a 12-year-old and pre-internet, pre-jaded kid, it was a pretty intense scene. I mean, nothing really inappropriate for children, but for an imaginative kid reading it, it's a pretty intense scene. And so Bert, of course, is scared too. They hop on their bikes and they pedal away really quick. But then Bert thinks about it later, and he talks to Flossie, and he says, it seems weird, because if the aliens really had ray guns, you would just hear the if it's like a science fiction movie, you would just hear the sound of the ray gun and then the flames. But they kind of heard an extended ray gun sound, and it was a little bit of a delay before the tree burst into flames. So he wonders about that. So he goes back and he sees kind of a burn mark around the tree, and he realizes that someone might have put up, they might have had a firework attached to a wire, something of that nature, kind of like a homemade fuse, and they made the tree burst into flame that way. So he thinks there's something else going on here. A few more mishaps happen, of course, because Bert was on the radio, or at least in the newspaper or the radio, I forget which one, mentioning that he saw a flying saucer. It does bring some of the crazies out, but also too, in the middle of the night, there's these strange alien sounds, and suddenly a big head appears and it wakes up Flossie. So a big head appears in front of her room. If I can, I'm going to include the picture here. This was another kind of spooky scene. Flossie is in. She woke up and she sees this head. So they find out later that it seems like there's some phosphoric paint that they find on the windowsill. So they realize that it's some kind of a trick, and they're not sure exactly why. But after a little more investigation, which again I don't want to get into too much if you're going to read the book, but they do figure out, well, the older boys, the older twins especially, figure out that there's something else going on here. So they call their good friend Lieutenant Pike. He's the lieutenant of the police force, and they tell him what's going on, and they realize too that maybe what happened was the illumination from. Oh, I should mention. So when Bert was going to try to find Artie in the backyard when he was babysitting, he had the porch light and a really powerful flashlight he was using, and the neighborhood, it's kind of a rural area, and there were no more lights, so he decides to call the lieutenant, and he has the lights on again. And that's when they realize for certain that it's really a super secret government helicopter that is actually silent. Now, of course, this is I guess it is kind of science fiction because they still can't make that now, in the sense of helicopter blades just make a noise. I don't know how you can make that, how you can mute that, but either way, it's a government project where the helicopter blades are silent, and so the light was a spotlight that the helicopter operator, I should mention, the helicopter's stolen. So the bad guys who stole it is a motorcycle guy and his confederate. He was shining the light, thinking that was the rendezvous point, and then he left. And when he left, he accidentally turned on the lights that are on the rotors of the helicopter. It's on the very far end of the rotor, so that's why there was a circular multicolored light spinning. But either way, they catch the bad guys. And they find out that the woman who interviewed Bert earlier, who said that she was working for a newspaper and she acted kind of weird, well, she is actually a government agent, and she was investigating the stolen helicopter. She realizes that because of the way the helicopter is designed to be silent and everything, UFO sightings probably mean that so that people are spotting the helicopter. So she's trying to she was trying to track down the helicopter. So she basically pops up when they're arresting the people who the motorcycle guy who came out to try to flag down the helicopter when Bert and Lieutenant Pike set the trap. She's basically explained what was going on and swore them to secrecy. So overall, it's a pretty good book. As I said before, it's written for children, so don't expect, Tom Clancy level espionage or anything of that nature. But it's a fascinating story. I think especially, again, it's hard for me to say because honestly, nowadays with the advent of internet, smartphones, and everything else, I don't know how much children are going to enjoy books like this anymore. Honestly, but for me personally, in the 80s, I really loved this one. This is actually one of my favorites of the series, and I really like the series, so that's saying something. And especially too, I think that I don't know, the book just has a way of opening your imagination. At least it did for me. There are some pictures in the book, but for the most part, you're kind of using your mind to picture things, as a book should. And I think that that's something that I really enjoyed. So I really give this book definitely a 10 out of 10. I hope if you have a chance to read it, I hope you enjoy it too, and please put in the comments what do you think about it. If you don't have a chance to read this book in particular, let me know what you think about the Bobbsey Twins series. And I want to say one thing to end my video here. Two things actually. First, please, no bad language, no sarcasm or anything like that in the comments. They'll be deleted immediately. Let's just keep this family friendly. Secondly, with the Bobbsey Twins series, I should mention this. There were at least 3 separate book series. I think there were 4, because there was one after this, but I don't know anything about that one. But the first one started in 1904 and lasted in 1979. That's the main series that most people know. That's basically just kind of an episodic tale of different adventures. Even when I was a kid, it wasn't my favorite thing. I liked the mysteries. So in 1980, that's when the Wanderer series started. They were mysteries. I liked them a lot. And that ended in 1986. There were 14 books in that series. And then the new Bobbsey Twins, which is what this series is, started in 1987 and ended in 1992. And like I said, for me personally, the heyday of the Bobbsey Twins series was the 80s. From when the Wanderer series started to book 17 of the new Bobbsey Twins series. So if you're familiar with the old original series, these books are very, very different. Okay, so be aware of that. But they're good. I really like them. Okay, well, I will see you the next time I do a review, and I can't say when that will be. Like I said before, I kind of do this when I feel like it. Have a nice day, everyone.